A popular rising star was gunned down in front of a motorcycle shop by 4 assailants. It seemed like an open and shut robbery case, but many people out there feel that the situation is much deeper and much more sinister. Today we're talking about José Duane Ricardo Onfroy, a man better known as XXXTentacion. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to call him X. X was a very popular rapper and songwriter, throughout a short but eventful career involving music, crime, controversies, and maybe most of all, conflicts with other artists. He became well known worldwide. Let's start off by asking, why did so many people like X? What was the appeal? Most of his songs involve themes relating to depression and alienation, something that a lot of young people and, well, people in general can really get behind right now. Many people liked how he would blend a lot of different genres into his tracks, everything from emo to metal to, well, of course, rap. A good number of people immediately imagine X as soon as they hear the word SoundCloud, which was where he got famous originally. However, X's story often comes down to the question we often ask ourselves: can you separate the art from the artist? This is because X's character was questionable, debatable, controversial. Let's start at the beginning. X was born out in Plantation, Florida in 1998, spending most of his childhood out in Lauderdale, an extremely dangerous area. X's father left his mother to raise him alone. When X was only 7 years old, he had his first taste of violence. A drug addict that his mother was dating started getting very violent towards her, screaming and breaking dishes in the process. In an attempt to protect his mother, X grabbed some of the broken plate shards and jumped on the man, biting him and scratching him with the plates as hard as he could. After this, his mom became determined to spend more time with him so that he wouldn't become a violent person. It didn't work out. In elementary school, X was already having trouble. He joined the choir at school, developing a love for music at a young age. A problem came out of this, though, when he punched a bandmate in the face who wouldn't stop touching him. He was kicked out of the choir, but the passion for music remained. Unfortunately, the tendency towards violence remained as well. X was kicked out of middle school entirely after he kicked one kid in the mouth and got into a fight with another on the bus. His mom was fed up and kicked him out of the house to go live with his grandma in an even worse neighborhood. Around this time, X started getting into drugs and participating in robberies. In 2012, when he was about 14 years old, he was caught with 21 grams of marijuana and arrested on charges of possession, which was a felony in Florida. He ended up getting sentenced to 1 month of juvenile detention and then 6 months at a behavioral correction facility. While in this facility, he decided that he wanted to become a musician. Once he was released, he quickly went on to steal a laptop in order to make music, only to be arrested again. Around this time in 2013 was when he started going by the name XXXTentacion for the first time, using the Spanish word for temptation along with the obvious connotations behind a triple X. In 2014, he was arrested yet again on gun charges. These charges could have gotten him up to 10 years in prison, so he was lucky to get off by serving less than 1. In one of these detention centers, he became better friends with Stokely Clivon Goulbourne, aka Ski Mask the Slump God. This is where his fascination with rap really began. Ski Mask's friend owned a computer and some recording equipment, so upon his release, they decided to start making some tracks together. After recording a good variety of songs, they started uploading them to SoundCloud. He was really starting to gain some traction online, and in 2015 he uploaded what would be his first big hit, a track called Look at Me. Although he wasn't quite mainstream yet, he did start gaining quite a cult following. At this point, X decided that he would abandon his old life of crime and turn to a life of making music. Although he seemed very committed to this resolution, things wouldn't go smoothly from here on out, to say the least. A man named Dylan Turner, who was going by the name Tables, was managing both X and Ski Mask at this time. It was agreed that Tables would be paid from the proceeds made from Look at Me. One night, the three got into an argument, with Ski Mask drunkenly telling X that Tables had robbed him of thousands of dollars. The two broke into Tables' apartment, demanded he pay up, and threatened to stab him. While threateningly motioning the knife towards Table's stomach and threatening him verbally, X accidentally pushed the knife into him. X then exclaimed, "Oh fuck," and ran from the scene, stealing Table's laptop as he went. Tables had to undergo emergency surgery, but he agreed to drop the charges against X if his laptop were returned. Even though the laptop had been wiped, he kept his word and X agreed to pay all of his medical bills. X apologized to Tables, saying, "As fucked up as the situation is, I am forever in your debt." By 2016, X was able to quit his job as a call center operator once his music career started bringing in enough money, but he couldn't escape his past. Only days after this incident with Tables, X was once again arrested and charged with robbery in relation to a home invasion that took place a year prior, one in which he had pistol whipped a man in the face and stole a few electronics and $20 from him. He posted his $10,000 bail, got 6 years of probation, and went right back to making music, this time on his first independent album, Bad Vibes Forever. But when the album was supposed to release in October, it had to be delayed when X would be arrested in what would become one of his most infamous crimes/scandals, the abuse of his girlfriend. He was hit with multiple charges, including false imprisonment, witness tampering, and aggravated battery of a pregnant woman. The trial for this case was delayed when his then-girlfriend herself asked for the charges to be dropped, even declining to testify. She said that she just wanted to move on and that she didn't want him to see prison time. X posted to Instagram listing his court date and apologizing to his fans for letting them down. Eventually, after a long process and many delays, X was given house arrest for his crime in 2018. While locked up, Look at Me had gone completely viral while X wasn't even there to enjoy the success. It had been rumored that Drake became aware of X at this time, and even told X that he would reach out to his manager about him at some point in the future. This never came to be. In fact, despite high hopes, this would play out in a much more negative way than X would have imagined. Drake dropped a song that many felt was very reminiscent of Look at Me, a song called KMT in 2017. Many people online posted videos in which they noted the similarities between the beats in the two songs. Many, after making the comparison, felt that the beat in Drake's song was taken nearly directly from Look at Me. X, upon hearing about the comparisons himself, wasn't too sure if it was just a coincidence or if Drake really had ripped him off. He said that he at least hoped that Drake would reach out to him if that were the case. Around this time, X noted that the ongoing conflict between the two was really starting to get his name out there even more. He started doing everything he could to troll Drake, adding fuel to the fire. He even posted a picture of Drake's mom, saying she could get it, and then later photoshopping himself into a picture of Drake and his mother, imposing his own face over Drake's father. He then made some angry tweets about Drake as well, which he later deleted, saying that he had been hacked. Drake did not respond. In fact, he stated that he wasn't even aware of X's existence. He denied stealing the beat from him, saying that it was mere coincidence that the songs were similar. He said that he wasn't the type of guy to brazenly steal a beat from another artist like that. This conflict attracted the attention of other rappers as well, namely Offset from a group called Migos, who insulted X during an Instagram livestream. Other members from Migos jumped in as well, even threatening to get some people together to kill X. X responded by saying that the older generation of rappers should be helping the younger generation, not trying to shut them down. Shortly after this, X was jumped by a group of people that he believed to be Migos. He stated that Takeoff fought him while Quavo and Offset watched from a car nearby. X then took to Instagram to insult the group, saying that they tried to beat him up over his conflict with Drake and then challenged Offset to a boxing match. Later on, it turned out that Migos wasn't even involved in this assault, it was just some random guys. X then apologized to Takeoff on social media. X did an interview with DJ Academics in which he apologized for the comments toward Drake's mom, acknowledging that they were quite a low blow. He did, though, maintain that he felt Drake did indeed rip off his style. A month later, he posted on Instagram, "If anyone tries to kill me, it was Drake, for unknown reasons." He then quickly deleted the message afterwards. Needless to say, this worried many people who saw the original story and caused them to screenshot it. Fans expected more diss tracks back and forth as X's career really started to take off, releasing more albums and going on more tours all throughout 2017 and 2018. It was looking like he was going to be at the top of the new generation of rappers, with all of this controversy only helping to fuel his career. In fact, he was already a multi-millionaire at the young age of 20. He didn't really try to hide that fact either, and in the end, that might have costed him much more than just money. By this point, X knew he had enemies. A lot of them. In 2018, he started talking about how he wanted to be seen after he died, seemingly feeling that his death was possibly on the horizon. He stopped leaving the house alone entirely, always having some backup with him if he were to ever need to go anywhere. On the 18th of June in 2018, X started his day by playing a quick game of League of Legends in the morning. Then he went and started working on a new song at around 8 AM, working until about 2 PM. X had been wanting to buy a new motorcycle and decided that today was as good a day as any to go do so. He asked his mom if she would come to the shop with him, but she declined. She was taking his girlfriend to the hospital as she had been sick. Sticking to his desire to never leave the house alone again, X went with his step-uncle instead. At 3 PM, they rolled up to the bank together, with X driving his $150,000 BMW and sporting both a very flashy gold chain and a $2,000 Louis Vuitton handbag. They went up to the counter together and X took out $50,000 worth of $100 bills. This was when X and his uncle were noticed by 4 men: Diedrich Williams, Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsome, and Robert Allen. They followed X as he drove over to the bike shop. This was when Robert and Diedrich were seen on CCTV footage walking directly behind X very closely while the other 2 men waited in the car. At 3:56 PM, as X attempted to leave the shop, he was cut off and blocked from exiting by a black Dodge SUV. 2 men hopped out of the SUV and ran over to X's driver's side window. They demanded he hand over his bag and chain, managing to steal the bag containing the $50,000 after a short scuffle, during which X's uncle was able to flee from the car. It seemed that X was only going to lose out on some money. That was until Boatwright decided to turn around and head back to X's car. Despite already having got what they wanted, he shot him multiple times at close range, with a fatal shot being to the neck. The shooters fled the scene with the bag of money as paramedics arrived to deal with X. He was taken to the Broward Health North Hospital, but he was pronounced dead at 5:30 PM. The 4 killers heard this news on the radio as they were driving away, to which they turned up the music to drown out the news. Diedrich soon recorded a video of himself dancing around while throwing $100 bills and uploaded it online. He then went on a shopping spree. He was arrested just 2 days after the shooting, where he was charged with dangerous and depraved first-degree murder. A few weeks later, the triggerman, Michael Boatwright, was arrested as well, with a receipt from a recent $400 shopping spree found in his trash can. He even had recent searches for both XXXTentacion and accessory to murder on his phone. Around this time, Robert Allen was caught as well. Both of these men were hit with first-degree murder charges. The final assailant, Trayvon Newsome, took the longest to find, but he was eventually caught about a month later and charged with first-degree murder. XXXTentacion's popularity surged after his death, with many hearing about him for the first time because of his murder. Many people grieved the loss of an upcoming new talent who hadn't even had the chance to reach his full potential yet. While people really dug into X's past online, a conspiracy theory began to form. This theory proposed the idea that Drake had possibly arranged for X to be murdered. Given that Drake had flown to the Turks and Caicos Islands shortly before the murder and that it was very apparent in the video footage that he wasn't actually present during the crime, people felt that he must have arranged all of this in advance to give himself a solid alibi. Drake may have even alluded to this in a track he later released called Knife Talk, saying, "Voodoo curse. It got him when I flew to Turks. Know the dogs had to hit them where we knew it hurts." People then noticed that in the music video for a track called Sicko Mode, one for which Drake provided some vocals, a meteor falls on what people felt was meant to be a lookalike of X. In a song called Mob Ties, released on January 6, 2019, Drake raps about someone being murdered for a bag, saying, "Louis bags in exchange for body bags." Fans quickly noticed the apparent connection with the robbery of X's Louis Vuitton bag resulting in his death. It seemed that it couldn't possibly be a mere coincidence that he decided to include this line specifically. If anything, many people felt that it was at least in bad taste and that he should have caught it and removed it before the song was released. Drake supposedly then took some shots at him in a song called I'm Upset, saying, "SMS XXX. That's the only time I ever shot below the neck," possibly referencing the facts that X was shot in the neck. Although it's a bit of a stretch, it's even thought that Drake even poked fun at him again recently on a collab with 21 Savage, saying, "Maybe I should do a 20, maybe I should break that 20, do a 10. Maybe I should break that 10, do a 5, and if it gets live, do a 5 again." Basically, in Roman numerals, 20 would be XX, 10 would be X, forming XXX. This is vague at best on its own, really reaching, but the next line gets a little more specific, saying, "If he held his tongue on that live, he'd be alive again." Many believe this is referring to the Instagram live stream in which X first insulted Drake, igniting this all. The murder trial against the 4 killers began at the Broward County Courthouse on February 7th, 2023. On the first day of the trial, the jurors heard the whole story. But the most surprising thing to come from the first day of the trial was the mention of Drake as being a possible suspect in the murder. Of course, the evidence against the 4 known killers was undeniable. With the video evidence, the cell phone searches, the GPS data, the social media posts, there was no doubt that these 4 men had been the ones to physically kill X that day. However, many people out there, even the defense in this trial, argued that some other rappers might be linked to the crime. Drake was probably the one to be mentioned the most, but the 3 in the group Migos were also mentioned as well due to their previous conflicts with X in the past. The defense argued that the prosecution never did their due diligence in investigating Drake as a suspect. With the amount of conflict between X and Drake and the Instagram post saying, "Clearly, if anyone kills me it was Drake," he felt that it was ridiculous that no investigation into him was ever done, especially given that the conflict between the two never actually ended. Drake was not on trial, but it was requested that he appear in court in January. However, he didn't show up. A judge then ordered him to give a deposition, basically a written statement about his many past conflicts with X the next month in February. But before he had to, the judge changed his mind, dismissing the order. Drake was no longer obligated to have any sort of relation to the trial. One prosecutor and many people following the trial felt that placing the blame on other rappers was only a ploy to deflect the blame from the known killers. The prosecutor claimed that this was a simple, premeditated robbery. They said that the 4 men simply saw X remove a large amount of money from the bank and decided to steal it from him. Cut and dry, plain and simple. In August of 2022, one of the men, Robert Allen, decided to turn on his friends and take a plea deal to testify against the other 3, who were all looking at life sentences for first-degree murder if they were convicted. In exchange, Robert pled guilty to a lesser conviction of second-degree murder. If anyone else were involved, he'd be a guy who would know. Robert said that the murder was indeed planned, but the main man behind the plan was Diedrich. It was his idea to rent the car they used that day and pull off the heist in the manner they did. Robert insisted that he told the others that the robbery was a bad idea from the very beginning. Trayvon Newsome and Michael Boatwright also apparently got cold feet early on, but Diedrich Williams peer pressured the 2 into proceeding. Diedrich even laughed as the video evidence against him was presented in court. Both the defense and the prosecution decided to rest their cases on March 3rd of 2023. On March 20th, all of the other 3 men were found guilty on all counts. They were all facing mandatory life sentences without the possibility of parole. And on April 6th, the judge sentenced the 3 men to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Robert Allen, who took the plea deal, has not yet been sentenced. Many people still feel that Drake was somehow involved with XXXTentacion's death. They don't feel that Robert's failure to mention him during the trial is really that much of a smoking gun. They argue that if a rich and powerful celebrity hired you to kill somebody, you probably wouldn't snitch on them. It's not really a good look, and you could very well be risking your life. In the end, we may never know who, if anyone, was involved in this case besides the 4 men we know of. Once again, thank you for watching my video. I've been wanting to cover some more kind of conspiracy-related murders like this for a while now, so if you liked it, let me know in the comments. If you found it interesting, please give it a like as it helps me out in the algorithm, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I post every week. Follow me on social media if you want, and I have a Patreon account which I always keep linked down in the description below, which I really appreciate if anyone wants to help me out with. There you can see videos early, uncensored, and without ads. Speaking of which, shout out to the top patrons. We have George Lopez, Emilia Morales, Minnie Tina, Travis Billings, Lettuce, Lord Fool, Jim Dowell, Kimmy Leffel, Melina Lee Williams-Haas, Motaz Hawk, Impalato, Stephen Jamie Kramer, Max Sword Guy, L, Rain Noir, Pao Yang, April Diamond, Starfade, Astral, Grack, Angie, Rick of Work in Progress USA, Sash Johnson, Marianne McCurdy, Buttery Frankus, Wafrans, Jules Latona, Arctic Cat, Alan Damiani, Adrian Lawley, Marsh, Rinsenstein, Kim Peek, Lux Alpaca, Charity, Scoochie Main, Jackie, and Mark Barnett. You are all the fantasticest. This has been your host, Kyle. Thank you, and good night.